Rich Little is with us tonight. You all know Rich. He's an amazing man. He has a great capacity, which I envy, to do impressions, but great impressions. He not only gets the voices, but he gets the mannerisms, which takes a great deal of time. He will be opening at the Holiday House in Pittsburgh, and he's been called the Toscanini of impersonators, and I'd like to get a hold of the man who called him that. So it's a lousy billing, because he's very good. Would you welcome Rich Little? You don't want to go.
Oh, yeah.
You don't want to go through life being billed as the Toscanini of who put that tag on you?
I don't know where that came from. I have no idea. Some critic probably put that label on me. I've seen it, though. I've seen it up there on the marquee, the Toscanini of impressionists.
You know, it's funny. I was sitting at home the other night, and they had a rerun on Channel 13 of one of the Copycat show that you fellas did. And I was in the other room, and I hear for a moment, you know, when you stop, and I said, who? I said, I know that voice. And I was not watching television. And it was you, and you were doing a takeoff on The Tonight Show, interviewing guests.
Yeah.
You said, I heard the pencil going, yeah, and I heard
And you heard the laugh?
Yeah.
And the whole thing?
And I ran in, and there you were. And it's a freaky feeling. It really is to hear somebody doing you.
It was funny doing that over in England. That's where we shot that show, in England. And the technicians and people over there didn't know half the people we were doing. You know, when we went to do you, that didn't mean anything.
The slightest idea why, because we don't play.
And Ed Sullivan was over to do a guest shot, and I remember a technician coming up to me and saying, who's the old guy with no neck who can't talk?
They didn't know Ed Sullivan?
Didn't have a clue who Ed was.
Yeah.
I said, he's a big star.
Yeah.
What does he do, they said.
Wonder what Ed's doing now Sunday nights. You think he's standing around in New York just introducing cars as they go by? It's got to be such a habit, you know.
Ed is the only man I've ever met who can count up to 3 and get 2 of the numbers wrong. Which isn't easy.
The sad thought about it is there are a lot of bears standing in unemployment lines around the country waiting,
No,
you know.
He needs people to follow him around writing him day-to-day conversation. I mean, what was the bit? Oh, yeah, if somebody came up to Ed Sullivan on the street, because he reads everything, and said, hello, Mr. Sullivan, Ed would probably look over their shoulder and say, don't walk.
It's a cue card, huh? He's a lovely man, and Ed Sullivan is one of the people in the business who loves people to do impressions. The first...
I hope so.
Oh, no, he does. He's got a great sense of humor, and because it is a compliment when somebody does you, obviously. If you're well enough known to do, you have to be flattered, unless you do a cruel impression. I've never seen you do that. But the first shot I ever did on the Ed Sullivan Show was Ed calling because I had done a takeoff on his old Toast of the Town, and that was my first big network shot was on his show.
You know, the first show I ever did with him, he gave me a great build-up. Young impersonator from Canada, fine youngster. So welcome out here, Buddy Rich.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really.
You're very lucky. Ed must have been hot that night. Usually, you got one of them right. Years ago, and I've done this on a dais when we've done those Friars things for Ed. He had, and Ed doesn't mind this. It's just sometimes he forgets. And he had Rosemary Clooney on years ago, and Rosemary Clooney was just about as hot as you could get at that time. You know, everything was working, and she had all the records. Ed came out and says, "Now, it's one of America's popular, really fine singers. Let's hear it." And he just went up. Come on out here, honey. She didn't even get Rosemary or Clooney. She got, come on out here, honey. And it was,
Oh, I love it.
and his son-in-law, Bob Preck, you know, tells these stories. They're hysterical, but Ed doesn't mind.
No, he's
he
a
takes
pretty
all
good
these
guy,
things.
really is.
If you've been watching now, you've got new fodder because of the Watergate show.
Yeah.
You all of a sudden, you have 7 or 8 people who are relatively unknown to the general public who now are major stars. Irvin and Talmadge and Weicker and Gurney and all of those people.
I've been watching
Talmadge.
and casting it in the movies. I think Charles Lawton would have made he's no longer with us, but he would have made a great Irvin.
Yeah, you're right.
And maybe Gregory Peck to play Senator Baker.
And Ozzie Nelson is going to play Halderman. And Ralph Williams is going to play Erickman.
Not bad. Wouldn't that be crazy?
Oh, that's great.
That would be crazy. Ehrlichman reminds me of a guy who sold me some aluminum siding about 1948. I don't know why. Now, have you tried to incorporate any of those voices, or is it too new at all to get those down? You're very quick.
I do Baker in my accent, Senator Baker. Now, I want to go over this point just one more time. And I want to get a clear picture of what you're trying to say. Now, according to your testimony, on April the 28th, you and Mr. Halderman, Mr. Ehrlichman, and Mr. Dane went to the president's office. And at that time, the subject of Watergate came up. The president, upon hearing that, sat back in his chair and said, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3.
You know who, I don't know if you've noticed this, and I'm not trying to compete with you on impression. I don't know, but your ear, you know who Gurney sounds like? He sounds like a very sleepy David Brinkley.
I was working on Gurney today, and I wrote down a little speech. Interesting sound pattern.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Mr. Dane, you mean to tell me that when you went to the president's office to discuss the events leading to and the subsequent cover-up of the Watergate incident, that you were not aware that recordings were being made?
Well, at the best of my recollection, at that point in time, I would have to say no. However, I might add that on several occasions during the course of our conversations together, the president would lead me over to a rubber tree plant and have me talk into one of its larger leaves.
Now, Gurney says, well, Mr. Dean, would you tell this committee your feelings toward rubber tree plants in general and the president's rubber tree plant in particular?
Well, I've never been overly fond of them, Senator.
And the other one that I was working on was Senator Montoya.
Montoya.
Isn't he the one from New Mexico?
That's right.
And
Montoya always reminds me that he didn't hear anybody else when it comes to his turn.
that's right. He's pretty serious.
Yeah.
Did you take these tapes to your home?
Yes, I did, Senator.
Did you play these tapes on a tape recorder?
No, Senator, I played them on a washing machine.
At what speed? At what speed did you play these recordings?
Well, I believe it was, It might have been faster, Senator. I really can't recall. I think it was something like this.
Did anyone else hear these recordings when you listened to them?
To the best of my recollection, Senator, there was just the recording technician and myself listening.
The recording technician heard these tapes with you? Why is that?
Well, because I don't know how to play them on a washing machine.
We'll take a quick break. We're coming right back. Back. We're talking with Rich Little. Do you remember when you were a kid, the first impression you ever did, and why you were intrigued?
Yeah,
I think all
I
kids.
think the first voice that I ever did
Stewart?
was Jimmy Stewart. Yeah, that was the first.
And I think maybe it could be my best. I don't know. I
Yeah, you
really
do a
have
great,
a great admiration for him. And when he did the Julie Andrews show, I spent all week talking to him. And a marvelous man and a great storyteller.
And the funny thing is, when you listen to Jimmy Stewart tell a story, you become so conscious of the voice. It sounds like a guy doing Jimmy Stewart. You know what I'm saying? I laugh because of just what he's saying.
He said, Rich, I saw you on some show singing as me. You were singing a song, and you complimented me. I said, I did? He said, yeah. When I sing in the shower.
Now remember, Stewart's not a comic, but he said, when I sing in the shower, it's so bad the soap gets up and leaves the dish.
The dish.
The dish.
Yeah.
But he was the first.
Yeah. What do? I would assume that you must tape or record them to listen to the speech pattern, because the pattern is almost as important,
Exactly.
is probably more important. You must get the voice, the
When I
tone.
was
and the-
working on
yeah.
my impression of you, I played it over and over.
I'm not particularly easy to do, really. I don't believe, to impersonate.
Once you get it, you're a good subject because you have so many things that you do with the tie and the straight back and the.
All these little things. May a weird holy man put easy off in your shorts.
So you're
Yeah, I know. We all have little things. You have to lay this in once in a while, Rich.
That's right.
Got to put the eye there. I don't know what. Everybody has those little. Bob Hope is Bob is extremely difficult to do.
And he likes to fiddle too, doesn't he?
I do the pencil thing, but Bob comes on. He has 3 pencils, and he sits and he hits, and he's one of these. Great cufflink straightener, constantly. But Bob is voice-wise is very difficult to do.
Very.
I've never heard really anybody
Right.
do Bob Hope very well.
No.
Any of the great impressions, you or Gorshin, or no, what I meant, including any of the great impressionists.
I've never heard a good Bob Hope, and I don't know why, because he's got a distinctive sound, but no one's been able to capture it. Very
Yeah.
hard. Steve Allen's hard.
Outside of the laugh.
Outside of the laugh,
He's
which
got
is
that
your
giggly
laugh.
laugh, yes. And Steve and I. Whee!
Moving right along, folks.
Okay. Is there anybody you would like to do? Who do they request most?
I would say that President Nixon is a good one to do. John Wayne has always been a popular impression.
Yeah.
And you, I mustn't.
That's funny.
You get fantastic reaction in the clubs, and of course the kids out there aren't too aware of some of the things I'm doing.
Yeah.
But it's dynamite. I do you in my act now, doing your monologue, and then bringing on Richard Nixon as your first guest.
Oh.
And
Just do a little bit of it.
Nixon comes out. He's been working with Bob Hope for 2 weeks.
And I say, my first guest is Mr. Richard Milhouse Nixon. You remember him? No. Well, we forget so soon. No. For the past couple of weeks, Mr. Nixon's been working with Bob Hope. And Bob's been helping the president with his, see how I goof like you? That little trip? That took 2 weeks to get that. No, he's been working with Bob Hope for the past couple of weeks. And here is the brand new President of the United States after only 2 weeks' work with Mr. Bob Hope.
And then I come out, Nixon comes out.
This is Richard. How I love to be President Nixon. I want to tell you, my fellow Americans, I just got back from Hollywood where I was working on a new motion picture. It's called Planet of the Tapes. But I want to tell you, Spiro Agnew was going to write the screenplay, but unfortunately he could never find his damn crayons. But I want to tell you,
And that just goes on. I love this bit. But you do a pretty good impression of Tommy Newsom.
You do Newsom, boy. Just you
Two
go ahead.
Tommy Newsoms talking to each other, all right?
Okay.
No, you gotta do it.
You got to do 30 seconds of Bogart doing the thing about the strawberries.
Well, has he ever done that?
No,
Ever?
no, I never have, and I'm not
There
going to
was
do
a
it in
time
your...
about a year ago, every night he was going to do that bit, and I kept tuning in.
Well,
and you
the
never
trouble
did
is
it.
I would see you do it on a show, and I said, I'm not even going to get near it, as long as Little is still doing the bit.
I tried to run this ship properly, but they fought me at every turn. They were all against me. Take the broken tow line, defective equipment, no more, no less, but they encouraged the crew to scoff at me and to circulate wild stories. I was to blame for Mr. Merrick's poor seamanship and incompetence, but the strawberries. I asked for the strawberries. They laughed at me, but I proved beyond a shadow of a doubt and with geometric logic and deduction that the duplicate key to the water-room icebox did exist, and I'd have produced that key if they hadn't pulled the cane out of action. Mr. Merrick was the perfect officer, but not Captain Queek. But the strawberries, they laughed at me, but I proved beyond a shadow of a doubt and with geometric logic and deduction that the duplicate key to the water-room icebox did exist, and I'd have produced that key. Naturally, I could only recall these things from memory. If you ask me specific questions, I'll tackle them one by one.
Oh, that's great.
That's why I don't do it.
Now you just... Oh, get out of here. That's why.
John, could you do the same speech as Porky Pig?
That's all, folks.
All right, we'll return with our guest after we take a pause for this message.